Alright, so recently I finished up Little Kitty Big City. So got some pre-recorded footage here in the background of me just going around and taking care of the last few things I was looking to do before the end of the game. But yeah, as I stated previously, I always intended to play this game right after Stray. Mainly because I remember seeing this game, I think, in a Nintendo Direct, and it immediately made me think of Stray, which I had already owned at the time. They both seemed good, kind of similar in a way, at least at first glance, minus the art styles between the two. And yeah, especially being indie and potentially smaller than, some of the really massive games out there, I figured I wouldn't be fatigued going from one to another, and the differences between them would keep things fresh. Which it did, honestly, despite relatively similar premises and different elements. They definitely feel more different than you may even think. Like, Little Kitty Big City is completely open world as opposed to Stray, which was more... You still had open areas, but they were smaller overall, and you kind of went from one to another as the game progressed, as well as there being some linear sections. I think you can even tell, too, with the jumping right there. I feel like the exploration and process of getting from one end to another, I'm hoping I don't try that again since... Oh, wait, there, I found the bone, so it's okay. Because I know I can get stubborn, but failing at something more than twice, trying the same route, I'm thinking of that insanity quote of trying the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Plus, I know it wouldn't have made for interesting background footage. But where was I? I don't know. I think Stray has more of the pacings of a platformer, where this goes a slower yet more precise direction, if that makes sense. That feels a bit different. And honestly unique in a way. I can't really think of any other games like that off the top of my head, at least that I've played. I see that duck there. That's probably a good segue for some of the, I think they call them achievements. I'm playing on the Switch, so we don't have actual achievements here, so I don't know if it's any different on platforms with actual achievements. If, that was their way to get this in the game, or if this system exists in the other games, or versions, I should say, separately from normal achievements. But I mentioned that duck because one that I never unlocked was, I've seen, the rubber ducks around the world, but you had to gather them up in a specific location, which kind of makes sense when you think about it, when you know what it is, but I don't know, it's a little annoying and out of the way and grindy. And there's a few of them like that. Like, there was another one with soccer balls that are a specific color that you have to unite with a soccer goal or football if you're outside the US. But, match the colors. Similar opinion there. In fact, I was probably tripping that lady there because there's another achievement for tripping so many people. There was one that I didn't even know you can do until later in the game, where you can go up to people on their phone, meow at them, and they take a picture, and you get an achievement for doing that 20 times. That was one of the few I didn't get that I had decent progress on, just because I got to a point where it's like, why am I even doing this when I'm pretty much done with the substantial content? I guess it's good it's there for people who really like the game and just want to have just that one or two extra things to do because they don't want to, necessarily leave the world quite yet. But I don't know. I do wonder if it would have been different if you could even trigger some of these secret achievements, like the rubber duck one, getting back to that, doesn't show up until you do it once, but maybe they could, say what the achievement is if you find one of the rubber ducks, I guess. Because if I got like a progress notice when I found the first rubber duck, I may have thought twice about completing that goal. Or I don't know. I forget if there was a way to like add marks to the map that you can reference later to grind through them. But even then, there's some that are just kind of out of the way. Like certain higher locations. That was another one I didn't do. Bird's Nest. Because I found a guide and I was only missing one, but I just couldn't tell which one it was, and I didn't feel like going through every single one all over again. I don't know, maybe they could have had some sort of, I'm thinking of older games like cheat system, like, I don't know, big head mode, or maybe you could, I don't know, fly or walk on water or something. Kind of crazy as incentive for some of these achievements that probably still wouldn't have been enough to motivate me, but it would have been a little more tempting to, just have a new way from doing some of those tasks to experience this world. Maybe, require that you clear the base game before allowing you to access broken features, but I think that could have worked well. The thing that was kind of a pain in the ass too, getting back to the getting your picture taking achievement, is that I don't know if it was like a glitch or anything, but it's like I read online that a human would pretty much take your picture anytime as long as they're not in a bad mood, which is indicated by their face turning red if they're mad, or being gray or purple if they're depressed. But it's like there was people who were in a normal mood who I meowed at who just didn't care. Which, I don't know, maybe it's sort of a randomized thing, maybe there's a certain chance that they'll do it, and it's probably on a person-to-person basis, because like I said, I would sometimes, at least the first few times, I would keep meowing at them, hoping they would change their mind about taking the picture, but I didn't have any luck with that strategy. And hell, I felt like sometimes when I was tripping people, I felt like I was, positioned well, and they just wouldn't trip. I definitely had a lot more luck sort of standing in front of them long ways as opposed to trying to run through their legs. I didn't have a lot of luck with that, although it did work a couple times. It's not really, a big deal or a game breaker, but it can be a little frustrating when certain mechanics aren't necessarily working like you would think they would, especially when you do have some past success with what you're trying to do. Unless you're going for all the achievements, though, the world is pretty fun to explore. The only area I found kind of annoying was the construction site, which, there's one of these soccer football balls, but I get that the construction site was kind of a tutorial-ish area, but I wish later in the game, after you clear that section, that they, I don't know, cleared a little of the water or moved the construction workers somewhere else, because I felt like, I don't know, it was just a bit of a pain in the ass each time I had to go somewhere nearby, because I just felt like I was kind of having to go out of my way a lot for little to no reason, since I already cleared that section. I forget too, I see this guy blushing. Was that, I forget it, because that, I know you can get pet if they're blushing, but I wonder, I didn't even try for a picture. Are you sort of locked into getting pet, or could you get a picture too? Is that a guaranteed picture, as opposed to whatever the rate may have been, if there was a rate on normal people? I don't know. Overall, between the two, I think I did prefer Stray. I feel like it had a mildly interesting story and characters, and I appreciated the gameplay variety, although I feel like the core gameplay might be a little bit better in Little Kitty Big City. Maybe because, it is a little more focused on one thing as opposed to the different sections you have in Stray. And I do feel like I like the more stylistic art style of Little Kitty Big City too. I wonder if it will age better, given Strike kind of goes a more realistic approach, although I guess we're kind of at the point too where things are probably realistic enough and it, may still come off as acceptable as things advance further. But even with that being said, I had a lot of fun with the game. I'm looking forward to seeing what the developer might work on in the future. If we get Little Kitty Bigger City, or I don't know. I do wonder, because I think both these games, from what I've seen, did decent. Like if we will get other studios experimenting with, other playable animals. Like, I wonder what, like, a bird-centric game would be like, just to name one off the top of my head, whether it be from this team or someone else. I normally don't talk much. I feel like I have been talking more, though, recently about future intended videos, especially because, like I said, things change. I can get distracted, and I think I've said in a couple of videos, I started this game like 3 years ago, got distracted, and just got back to it right now. But I do have another cat game, but I don't really consider it part of this series, because, I don't know, I feel like it has a much different approach and gameplay style from these games. All I'll say is that Butters recommended me this game back when World of Warcraft was really popular, and I was happy to see it get a Steam release recently, and it was on sale a couple weeks ago, so we'll hopefully be starting that soon and have that here sooner rather than later.